Morning, everyone. How are we doing today? We wanted to touch upon a very sensitive topic. How does AI act in cyber? We talk so much about AI, but before that, let's start about something very similar. I am Raghuvanshi, but because of the impact of AI, now I've changed my name to AI Raghuvanshi. So that is the kind of impact what we are having now. Everybody's talking about AI, but you have to actually get into detail. What are we doing with that AI, and how are we actually making impact with that? Everyone talks about we have AI, we do this, we do that, but what is the end result of it, and how are you actually doing that? So we'll touch upon that front. We'll talk about who we are. I'll explain a real world attack, what has actually happened. I think I'm too fast with my clicker, just bear with that. In terms of Exabeam as a company, we are a pretty old company. I don't want to get into a typical sales jargon, but what I want to touch upon is we're a complete AI-driven security operations platform. That means from a time a threat is identified to a time threat is mitigated, everything can be done from a single platform, from a single console, and you will be able to understand what is the mean time to detect, mean time to respond. We have a SIM, UBA, SOAR functionality, everything coming in out of one single solution. In terms of innovation, close to 75 cybersecurity patents, majority of them on AI. The ride has been going on about AI since last couple of years, but we have been talking it for a long, long time. 14 years of Gartner leader recognition across both the solutions, 3,000 plus customers. There are like multiple things. But how did we actually achieve this, right? 2015, 2016 was the time when we started embarking on a journey on AI. 10 plus years of AI, where we are talking about. In terms of AI, ML, and right now we are a leader in that space where we do a lot of 1800 plus behavioral models. And in terms of a new one, what we are launching in is about Exabeam Agentic AI, which kind of does a co-pilot with you in a natural language when it makes easy, works with you. But the whole point of our session today is about meeting where you are, not literally in the hall here, but if you already have a SIM solution, what we can do is we can augment that with your SIM solution as a layer on top of it for a threat detection and instant response. If you do not have a SIM solution, we can do a full-blown SIM solution. So for us, it's not about like what you have to see how we can actually augment and complement you. Now, what do we do? One of the biggest challenges what the customers have is they struggle to detect complex threat attacks. Simple solution. We have a logarithm SIM, and based on that SIM, we kind of forward the logs to our UEBA engine, where we ingest the data, and this is where advanced threat detection capabilities run. And from here, we take the data back and give it back to our SIM, wherein on one single console, you will be in a position to see what's actually happening. Solution, and you don't have to toggle between two different tools. What are you trying to do, what are you trying to understand, but one single tool which will actually give you a complete overview, a complete picture of the augmentation play. Now, why did we even do that? So recently there was a IDC study conducted around with close to 1,000 plus CISOs, and they've asked them, you have so many cybersecurity solutions, and are they solving the purpose? Are they enough? What are the other challenges, what you see? Predominantly everything narrowed down to investigations were way too slow, limited visibility, lagged instant response, and they needed a complete TDR workflow, especially, right? That's what we want to do, right? When I spoke about some time back, what are we doing with AI? We are trying to mitigate this whole TDIR process in a manner that it can autonomously do these things. You might ask me a question, can it do it completely away without human intervention? I would say no, but we can do it to a greater extent using the power of AI in terms of scalability and intelligence, and then use human intelligence as more like a guardrails. Let's talk about one of the real world attack. We all know about lapsus attack which has actually happened, right? After the Mimikatz was executed, that is when AV has detected it, that something has actually happened, and then SIM detected it, then DLP detected it, talking about, okay, this is what has happened. By then the damage was already done. Even if you talk about next-gen SIM solutions or any other tools, they all came into the force when everything was actually happened. When the lateral movement was happening, that's when things started being noticed. Now, my point is to take this attack and say how we are doing it from an Exabeam perspective, right? If you go to the next one, Previous one, if you have noticed, AV detection, that's where the whole thing was started, after the Mimikatz was executed. We are talking about identifying all these things even much before that. Around May 7, 9:15 is when the impossible travel, like the concurrent sessions happening from 2 different regions, were identified. Something is suspicious, something is not right. Then post that, then a different login, then RDP. All this was identified even before any kind of an EDR or AV solution could identify that. Like, kind of 3 steps in advance. This is what we are trying to do. This is what we are trying to achieve by using AI, right? Now, how did we do that? Like I mentioned in the beginning of my session, we have close to 1800 plus ML and behavioral models. And we familiarize and invest a lot in threat detection. Because that's the end objective, right? Multiple solutions, what we're trying to use, just get the threat detection right. Another thing is, how are we using AI? This is a general log. And as a human, if you actually want to do analysis, you have to literally rack your head trying to understand what questions can you ask. But if I have to demystify this and tell about the questions, like what we can do. This is a log, and if I break down, I'll give a minute to go through the slide. These are all the questions which we are ideally supposed to ask to understand what we are actually doing. Now, this part, how did we do it? 46 questions answered using AI and ML models without human intervention, right? Imagine this is what you want to achieve. If a manual intervention was there and achieving these things, take a time of how many logs are you going to detect, how many times you're going to get into the mitigation phase. Can you do that, right? Now, this is what we're talking about, wherein using AI to kind of mitigate this. The reason I'm stressing on it because there's a lot of things going on around AI. So we wanted to steer our presentation away how we're actually using it to the real world examples. My marketing team gave me a very clear indication not to have a detailed conversation on stage because we have limited time slot. So we are right outside the door. When we have questions, more than happy. We have an army of people here. We can talk to you. In terms of other features, what we do as an extra beam, like in terms of a password spraying attack, in terms of a credential surfing, in terms of a privilege escalation, insider threat detection, all these things we can do it. Predominantly, while driving a car, the most critical thing is ensuring that your blind spot is covered, right? Right now, we have technology in the cars to tell that there's a beep comes in when you actually switch on the indicator. That's what we are doing, ensuring that your blind spots are also covered from an extra beam perspective. Now, can AI predict the attacks? There are so many threat actors. Can anyone take a guess of some of the names? Any guesses? We got some nice. More. Probably some would actually, you would see it on the stage as well. So there are like so many, like nation-sponsored attacks, cyber groups, activist groups. All this try to do is attack and see how you can actually take down the infra. And from a solutioning perspective, how can we actually help? Like one of the gentlemen sometime back we were talking to came to our booth and said, this is all fine, everybody's talking about predictive. Everybody's talking about actually kind of a remediative one, but can you do something on a predictive part? I said, we have a session in the next 10 minutes. Can you please come join us? I don't want to point it to them, but he's here. I'm happy to see him. So what we do is we kind of understand based on AI, talk to deep web, dark web, what are the kind of threat vectors which are going on, and understand the information. Like we even go to an extent where we read the BGP traffic if somebody is procuring a massive amounts of infrastructure. So we know something is actually being planned, something is being targeted. These are not the claims. In the next slide, we'll actually talk about what are the attacks which are there and what we have predicted, right? We correlate close to 120 source feeds. Some are official threat feeds, some are open source feeds. We do all that. We monitor 10,000 plus adversary pool as well. We predict attacks predominantly like close to 50 days in advance. Our prediction rate and the false positives are pretty low. We're more than happy to showcase a demo to you outside in our booth. And at the time of the prediction, 90% we are unique compared to the solutions. We are not giving you the same IOCs. We're not giving you the same information what every other tools are giving you. Now let's dwell into the real examples, what actually has happened. Threat detection record. We all know about Log4j vulnerability. right? Everybody in the room knows about it. It was detected in 2021. When did we identify that? September 2021, 3 months in advance. Let's talk about Colonial Pipeline. It was identified in May 2021. When did we detect that? April 2020, way in advance. Talk about one more. SolarWinds, the most famous one. Kind of shook up the entire industry. What's happening? What's going on, right? December 2020, identified in April 2020. You see this? The timeline, what we are kind of identifying it, like way in advance. If you are looking at something which is actually going to help you predict something in future, I'm your guy. We have our team here to talk to you more about it, right? Now, these are all the ones which we spoke about, which are happening for a time. If you have to talk about something recent, move it. It was in June 2023, identified in March 2022, and the last one which I wanted to give an example is on Feb 2024. You could see it in terms of it. And how do we do it? Like sometime back when I mentioned, when the infrastructure is actually procured, in terms of information is there, we give it to this level wherein you would see what identified, what was the IOC, when was it reported, what is the overall timeline in advance, right? This actually helps you in terms of being ready more than attack happening, because we hear a lot of attacks happening these days, right? Predominantly, you know about it, like I'm not naming them, but there are a lot of surge in the attacks. And for us to be ready, we have to be prepared in a predictive manner than a reactive manner, right? So this is more from a threat predictions perspective. Now what happens is, there is a very standard thing called as a swivel chair analysis, which is there in every other SOC setup, wherein you'll have to deal with multiple solutions, one for a log management, one for a SIM, one for a UEBA, one for a SOAR. You know, you're talking about, if I'm an analyst, I'm looking at 2-3 different tools, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, where do I establish a process flow? If I have to use a SOAR, it's a third party. If I have to use a UEBA, it's a third party. How do we integrate it? How am I going to do the process flow? We take away that pain point. We do all the heavy lifting for you, wherein we show everything for you on this console. What I show you on my slide is what you actually see from a platform perspective, wherein you will be in a position to kind of do away with the swivel chair analysis, get a, sorry, question? Yeah, so you'll be in a position to do away with this. So if there's a compliance perspective, wherein you talk about a log management, you need to have a logs. You get it from a same console. SIM, to a level where the gentlemen before me were talking about classification of a data. That's more of a structured data. But here what we are talking about is classification of a unstructured data, that is the logs. We classify the logs into 3 different buckets. Is it a security log? Is it a business log? Is it an operational log? So based on that, we can understand and prioritize what needs to be focused on, right? If an admin is there, not the admin on the SOC team, say some administration or a receptionist, and if their machine is down, we know that comes under operation perspective. Now, but just imagine a CEO or a CFO or a COO's email or something is compromised. Can you deprioritize that because it's just a one machine? No, you have the most sensitive data which is present on that, right? You need to focus on that part. So we kind of prioritize as well in terms of by adding the context, what we spoke about some time back, and that kind of gives a clarity. Now, one challenge, I've done an interview recently in that people, I was asked a question saying, can AI take away the whole human intervention? In such scenario, for AI doesn't know that if it's the severity of the laptop which is being used. That is where the human intervention comes in. AI can be used in terms of scalability, complex data, number crunching, and all this can be done, but human intervention comes in to add it. I would probably say AI is more like your flight. Exabeam is like your air traffic controller, trying to tell what's happening, so that in an enterprise, all these things are taken care of. From a solutioning perspective, from a UBA perspective, from a SOAR perspective, everything from the process perspective. Now, this is all about the company. Before I run off my time, something which I wanted to touch upon is the kind of innovations what we have been doing in the field of SIM and SOAR. Since July 2022, every quarter there have been an innovation, and everything is published on the LinkedIn. The beauty of it is, it's not published by our product team or marketing team. These are published by our own CEO. He kind of realms the, the product innovation and roadmap and strategy. Beginning of a quarter, we announce what we're actually going to do in that quarter, and we publish those after the quarter is done. It's more like promises made, promises kept. His name is 'Chris O'Malley. You can go find him on the LinkedIn. He writes interesting articles. You can read about it. we are here anyways to talk to you more about our solution. Only thing what we wanted to touch upon is Exabeam Logarithm as a company, as a power of one. We are here. No matter how big the idea, how passionate the team, how strong the product, we only go as far as what our customers take us, right? So we are here to listen, to serve, and support you. Thank you.
Would you have some examples?
You want me to tell something which is very proprietary?
No, but that should
We are
be a
right
public
outside
knowledge.
the booth. We are right outside there. This door, right? This door. We can have a conversation because there are some things I can't say in front of the camera.
Sure.
But I would love to have a conversation with you. We are right here, right off this, here all day, today, tomorrow. We can talk about it. We can talk about more cases.
Sure.
Yes.
It's more about kind of an USP where we tell, right, on an individual room when we are talking to the customer saying that this has been what identified, right? But not at this forum. I hope you can understand that.
For sure, we'll take that offline. Do we have any other questions? Anyone? Yeah, one more there. We'll take that as that last question. Yes, sir.
So, hi.
Hey.
Actually, you are providing this all solution into the single platform, which includes Yuba, endpoint monitoring, embed, and everything. So, when we go to the customer, so customer want different OEM for different products because of the coverage of threat actors, and everything. So, because obviously we have a separate OEM, so separate database would be there, separate threat, level there. So they want separate solution. So how we can defend those kind of things, and how we can, convince to the customer that single platform will be good, rather than different OEMs. So what is your thought?
Great. May I know your name, please?
My name is Shashi.
Shashi. Thanks for that question. Shashi, there is something called as the defense in depth approach. You've heard about it, right? I'm not talking about our solution doing a perimeter firewall, then a DMZ firewall, then I'm not talking about EDR, I'm not talking about DLP solution. We're not talking about covering the entire spectrum. That is the problem we're addressing. We have solutions operating in silos. Thousands of cybersecurity solutions, but still every day we have new attack, right? For us, what we do is we are more like a central nervous system, right? A SIM and SOC is your central nervous system, integrating with all the possible cybersecurity solutions and giving a human readable data on what needs to be done, right? If we go and say that, like some respectful competition, oh, we also do firewall, now we started doing a SIM solution, we will also do EDR solution, then your question is very valid. You're talking about a customer saying that, why should I take everything from you, right? Here we are not doing that. We are keeping that in separate. We are only talking about SIM and SOC business, where we are focusing on integrating all the log sources irrespective of whatever firewall you have, whatever EDR you have, whatever DLP you have, right? And then give a meaningful data. So this is the crux of it. When I said the integrated solution, if a customer has a SIM and a Yuba and then a SOAR, then you have to do an API integration. Versus a product which actually has all these things inbuilt, then you have a good ease of use, right? We want security tools to enable us, not to disable us from the things which you want to do, right? So that way we are in a better position handling things what we do. And best thing is, for 20 plus years we have been doing only this, and we are not venturing into any other thing. This has been a bread and butter for our company. We have been doing this. That is the reason we have so many customers, so many references, a presence across 22 plus regions in terms of the customers, right? That means 22 plus countries, including India. I hope I answered your question.